good and what didn't?
We played well. I mean, we give up 10 points and only give up a little over 200 yards against a quality team like that on the road. That's good stuff. But there's a lot of things that need to be corrected. I kind of called it the sloppiest, most dominant performance I'd ever seen. I thought people called me after the game and watched it on TV and said, "Man, you guys fly to the football," and we do. We played our style of play, and our style of play, I always say, is relentless pursuit and never-ending pressure, and that makes up for a lot of mistakes. And there were a lot of mistakes that need to be corrected, and they were on Sunday, and they will continue to be.
You mentioned last week that the Kansas State offensive line was one of the better ones that Mississippi State was going to face this year. How do you feel that your guys did in that matchup?
We held them to achieved our run goal, 3.2 yards a rush. I think we had 8 tackles for loss, and I think we had 4 sacks. Although we were playing a very, very good offensive line, I think we have a very, very good defensive line, and I think Jeffrey Simmons and Montez Sweat and that crew, continue to show why they deserve all the recognition they're getting, and I think so far so good. I don't think I think they have a good work ethic. I don't think they've swallowed a lot of the poison. They stayed focused and getting ready for the next opponent.
There appear to be a lot of similarities to what Lafayette and Kansas State wants to do with the quarterback as far as the run goes. What have you seen from them on film?
Yeah, there's some. I mean, Nunez, 7 and 17 are good quarterbacks. It's hard to say. It's one game. I will say this. We've watched a lot of Arizona State film. Billy Napier is the head coach. I will say this, after watching all the Arizona State film from a year ago in the opening game against Grambling, I think he's an outstanding play caller. I think he's got a great scheme. I think he's very unique. I think he uses formations to his advantage, tries to get the ball in the hands of his playmakers, and has a really, really, really good idea on how to move the ball.
How difficult a scout is that when there's only one game of film to work with?
It's kind of weird, because you're watching, you go back and forth, you break down the film, and Arizona State games and Lafayette game against Grambling are part of our breakdown. And you watch the Lafayette game certainly because it's this year and it's their personnel executing it. But to get the tendencies, in a one-game breakdown, which was X amount of plays, I'm not sure how many plays it was, you wouldn't have all the situations that you need to have covered during the course of the week. So we went back and got as many as we could from last season, and just trying to get in the head of what Coach Napier would call in a particular situation and what his thoughts and ideas are, and also the O-line coach who came with him, who has the title of offensive coordinator. Between the two of them, I'm sure they're calling the run game and the pass game. But yeah, they have good skill. The quarterbacks can both throw and run. The running backs can run. The quarterbacks last week, I think the starting quarterback completed 18 of his last 19 passes or something along those lines, and ran for a touchdown. 17 has started. He's not as big. He's a left-hander, but he's made some plays in the past. Obviously, Coach Hudspeth gave us a fairly detailed scouting report on a lot of those guys, so that was very, very helpful this week.
Who has to step up for you in the first half this week with Jonathan Abrams suspended?
His next man up. It's just how it goes. I mean, Chris Rayford and Stephen Adegoke, and John missed some time during training camp, and both those guys played, and they played very well. So I'm supremely confident that they'll do a good job. I'd also say that Mark McLaurin, needs to just step up and provide the leadership that he always does, and maybe plus one. Be a little bit more vocal in there. I mean, Errol, I think you guys witnessed that Errol played a week ago. You asked about the linebackers, that they might not have played as well, which I disagreed with. And I thought Errol really stepped up and had an outstanding game this week, whether it was blitzing, whether it was playing the pass, whether it was commanding the team. And so, I mean, I guess in some ways Errol does too, but Errol will do a good job. And that's one of the keys this week. These guys have a lot of formations, very unorthodox formations, whether it's empty, unbalanced, formation into the sideline, and they'll utilize any and all of them if we don't get aligned correctly.
If Peters is limited or out this week, who takes that spot in the rotation at corner?
Smitherman and Tyler Williams, and they both played a lot last week and did a good job. And Corey Charles has practiced with us all year long too. So those guys are all ready to play and do their job. I mean, Peters has practiced this week, so certainly he's been somewhat non-contact, but we'll see what happens. And nobody's going to be perfect this time of year. Once you get to September, mid-September, I mean, your body won't be the same until the end of the season again. So everybody's just got to fight through things and fight through soreness, fight through aches and pains, and we're very confident Jamal will be out there Saturday.
On the other side of the field, how would you assess how Cam Dantzler has looked through 2 games?
Yeah, I actually said the other day, this might sound weird, I thought one of the biggest plays of the game was the first play of the game. They tried we loaded the box and they tried to throw a long ball, they threw a double cut, and Cam made another solid play on the play. And they were trying to get the ball in the hands of one of their really good playmakers, and both Cam and John Abram were in position to break up the pass, and so so far so good. I mean, if I were being really critical of us thus far, the one negative, and this maybe not a negative, but an area for growth would be turnovers. I mean, we haven't created them, and I think it's hard sometimes when you get the pass rush that we do, and quarterback's throwing the ball into the dirt or throwing it way out of bounds. But I'd like to see us, I'd like to see us break the ice this week and get some turnovers.
Seems like the linebackers are a big part of what you try to do when you need to get a big stop. How would you assess the overall play of those guys?
Yeah, yes. I mean, in this scheme as it's designed to be run, I feel like that the Mike, the Will, and the two safeties will ultimately end up being the leading tacklers, the way it plays out. That's usually how this defense plays out. So they're always going to be at the point of attack. As a middle and a Mike linebacker and a Will linebacker, there's really nowhere to run and hide. You're always going to be at the point of attack. And when you have players at that position like we do, in Errol and Willie and Leo, I mean, those guys are really, really good players. And thus far, I'm very, very pleased with their performance. I'll say it again, and you probably know a little bit more about Leo, or a little bit more about Willie, but boy, Errol Thompson's a guy flying a little bit below the radar that deserves deserves some recognition. He's doing a good job.
There's been so much focus on Jeff Simmons and Montez Sweat. Beyond them, I've been seeing guys like Kobe Jones, Grant Harris making plays. How deep can your defensive line go?
Extremely. At the defensive end position, I mean, we have guys that are on the third unit really that at other schools that I've coached would be starting. Those guys all deserve to play, whether it's Chauncey, whether it's Kobe, whether it's Fletcher, right on down the line with that group of guys. And the inside guys, certainly Jeffrey gets a lot of the recognition, but Braxton and Corey, those guys have really held their own, and Grant and those guys have done those guys have done a really, really good job thus far. So, we're going to have to continue to do that. And in this conference and every week I preach, dominating and winning the line of scrimmage. And I mean, I know you've heard this phrase before, but the SEC really truly is a line of scrimmage league, and the team that wins and controls the line of scrimmage week in, week out, day in, day out is going to be the one that has the most success.